So every week we put out multiple episodes to help you on your jiu-jitsu journey. Now, it's a privilege for us to be in this position, but we want to ask one thing from you. And this is a very small gesture on your part, but it means the world to us. Simply hit the follow or subscribe button on whichever platform you enjoy this podcast on. It means the world to us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof For BJJ podcast. QnA for BJJ. You have questions. We have some answers. What do we got, Joseph?
Fling them through on the website if you got them. Bulletproofforbjj.com, podcast page, record a voicemail, get featured on this episode. First cab off the ranks is James O'Connell.
Joey, JT, I'm in a cemetery with my dog so you can chase squirrels, so the sound might be quite bad. You've got dumbbells, only dumbbells, no other gym equipment. Which 5 exercises are you doing with those dumbbells which are applicable to BJJ?
Good question, James.
Straight up to the point.
I want to know what kind of dog he's got. I'm thinking, is it a whippet or something? I'm guessing he's in the UK.
Oh, it sounds like a UK accent.
Northern Hemisphere, English-speaking realm.
Walking around a graveyard with a dog.
Dog chasing squirrels. Like,
squirrels?
Whippet?
Where are you?
You know, they love chasing the... I got
They
a couple
do.
of whippets. My guy. Come back at us. Let me know what dog you got.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good question. Which 5 exercises you got a couple of dumbbells?
All right. So let's say, because sometimes when people have dumbbells, they'll have maybe a couple smaller ones, a couple medium ones, and then maybe one or two heavier ones, right? So I'm going to go a little bit off script a little bit here because of what I like to do with dumbbells. It's just me. I'm going to say a single arm overhead press with a pretty heavy dumbbell. So circus dumbbell is like a strongman thing, but like a single arm heavy press overhead is fucking...
James, like one of them happens to be a circus dumbbell.
One of them happens
That's
to
the
be...
perfect answer, James.
One of them happens to be 40 kilos. No. But I'm just saying, like, this is how I'm relating it in my mind. I like an overhead press, right? So that's a bit of a go-to. I'm also going to say a version of a rack squat. So dumbbells at shoulder height, not necessarily resting them on your shoulders, but squatting with the anterior load.
Rack position.
That's a toughie. A version of a deadlift, except hands are pronated, so you're keeping the dumbbells very close to the shins, like a Romanian deadlift-ish. From there, walking lunges, an asymmetrical, like a single-sided farmer's carry, and then...
Okay, you said 5.
Is that 5?
I don't know. Keep going.
No, get up, sit
The
up.
almanac. Get up, sit up.
Get up, sit up, totally underrated for core and shoulders. Just putting it out there, it's the business. Joey, you're 5.
I like that. Yeah, some rack squat.
Yep.
100%. I would put in some kind of if the dumbbells weren't heavy enough that the deadlift was actually giving you enough stimulus, like enough intensity, I would go to either a split stance or a single leg dead.
Sure.
And I do actually really like dumbbells for single leg deads just because...
More range.
And just balance.
Lower.
Like it's kind of nicer than a barbell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say I would go Turkish get up. I like get up, sit up, but just whole movement. I like it. What else would I put in there? I think I'd have to have some kind of bent over row. And I do really like the one you taught me, which we have in the app, which is like the bench row where you're holding like a plank position.
Yeah.
And then rowing there.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I would say amongst those, and then stealing a couple of yours. What, I got another one?
Yeah, you got one in the tank.
I got one more in the tank. Or if you had a heavy one, I would say a dumbbell push press.
Oh, yeah.
So we're getting that pressing stimulus, but that little
Bit
knee
of quad.
drive, little bit of core to extremity action, bit of power.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Nice.
But if it wasn't heavy enough, then you'd go to a strict press. So take your pick.
Nice.
Fuck yeah, that's a good one. All right, next cab off the ranks coming from Ghost.
G'day JT and Joey. Ghost here from Melbourne. Love the show. Really enjoy the content you put out, especially around recovery and mobility. So my situation is I'm in my mid-30s. I've always been very active, lifted since I was in my early 20s, and been training jits for about 8 years. Can't recall ever having more than a week off from training. The kind of guy who took my gym gear on my honeymoon. So my situation is this. Last week I had a procedure to remove a lump from my neck. Now, it's nothing to worry about, it's totally benign, but my surgeon has said that under no circumstances am I to engage in physical activity for the next 8 weeks. It's no lifting, no jits. I can't even go for a slow jog until the 6-week mark. So the only activity that I'm able to do is stretching. So I suppose what I'm looking for is any advice that you have around what I can do in these limited circumstances where there's an enforced layoff from exercise to try and keep up a base level of fitness and strength. Thanks, guys.
All right. Ghost, respect, you're my guy. Man, that surgeon. Get a second opinion. I go Tom Cruise on that shit. There's a story about Tom Cruise. He's talking to Matt Damon. And Matt Damon does good impersonations. He's like, so I met Tom Cruise at a party and he's real intense. He's like, yeah. So we're shooting a movie. And it's where I'm running around the building on the outside. I said to my safety guy, how can I do this? Safety guy said, you can't. So I got a new safety guy. What the is he talking about? Is it risk of infection? Like, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do any kind of activity, because obviously risk of infection is a thing, and I don't know how bad the surgery was. But anyone says you can't do anything, that strikes me as strange, because you have to live your life, right? And you might sweat. If it's a hot day, you have to walk. You might have to pick up your kids. This idea that you do nothing for 8 weeks sounds like bullshit to me. So
it does sound like a broad brushstroke recommendation that they probably just give to everyone.
I would ask for more specifics, because obviously this guy doesn't understand you, Ghost, and doesn't understand that you were special recon and animal.
Yeah,
so
you could have ripped your voice box out with your bare hands.
Come here, weak surgeon.
Yeah. I think surgeons generally, respect to any surgeons listening, generally
respectfully,
they're not focused on the rehab process. They're focused always on the surgical process. And so usually, and I had this in my own experience, their advice post-surgery is very general. But the person that you would go to who really has better advice is often a physiotherapist or relevant kind of similar practitioner, because they deal with the rehab process. And I would think that maybe the surgeon wants you to not be like flexing the neck. And I was thinking about it as you were saying it, and I'm like, man, even if you were doing like, I'm thinking like, what if we went heavy isolation work and just like leg extensions and shit? I'm like,
press.
There's a case that you're like bracing and like flexing the neck. Maybe the scenario is that you have to avoid those contractions through the neck, perhaps. But for sure, like even if you were doing some lightweight, high repetition work where you're keeping things relaxed, but you're chasing a pump and chasing just that muscular
in the
fatigue.
legs.
Yeah, like 30, 40 reps of leg extensions, leg press, hamstring curls, right?
But I guess
curls and shit. Like,
yeah, I guess my question would be, because I wouldn't accept that. I'd fight the surgeon, even with like, I'd say, is this too much? You want this? Like, is this too much strain, surgeon? And then I'd tear the stitches in my neck. The risk of infection is always a big problem, right? If you've had, they've cut you open. I don't know how close it is to your spine. There's a lot of things we don't know here. All I'd say is I would get more clarity around, okay, what can I do? Why is it I can do nothing? Because obviously in day-to-day life, you do sweat, you do move, you do lift. So I would get probably a little bit more clarity around that. I would say Joey's right in, say, doing some pure isolation, like getting in the gym, doing some leg stuff. But if it's about sweat, bacteria and all of that, then I think there is ways you can do it to minimize that.
Yeah.
So I think there is something you can do, but I would get a second opinion. F that guy.
Yeah. Just on that, like I had a friend who got a knee injury skiing, and like not a training gym person at all, right? A dad, a professional, copped a bit of a knee injury skiing, went and saw a surgeon, which this is kind of a bad decision, but went and saw a surgeon first thing. And he went and saw what he was told was the best knee surgeon in our state, New South Wales. And that person is one of the top knee surgeons, right? Got the reputation, been around for a long time. Now that surgeon said to him, look, they did scans or whatever. He said, I can see a bit of damage here, but we don't need to do surgery. Like, it's not that kind. And he said, okay, great. Like, should I go and see a physio? And he said, physio doesn't work.
Oh,
And he's like, well, what should I do? And he's like, just rest. Just take it easy for a couple of months and you should be fine.
What?
And he told me that, and I'm like,
Who the f says physio doesn't work?
right? I'm like, that is like categorically the most incorrect response I could have given you. Like, it just shows the narrowness of that person's view. And I'm not saying this is your surgeon, but we got to remember, like, that guy is, by all standards, one of the best knee surgeons in this country. And he gave that advice. You're like, man, like there's so many benefits to physio, even if there's actually no benefits beyond you just feeling like you're proactively doing something to help fix your knee. That is a benefit.
Yeah.
So we got to take that advice with a grain of salt. Definitely don't unfollow don't go against their advice, but seek a second opinion.
Yes, sir.
Next one, coming in hot. Who we got here? Justin.
Hi, Joey and JT. So I was listening to your episode on stupid injuries. This is Justin from New Orleans, Louisiana, in the States, by the way.
Shout out.
And I've been training for a little while. I'm a white belt. I own a construction company. I'm about 210 pounds, so I was pretty competitive rolling with some of the guys, the white belts and blue belts, and I was doing fairly well. And I ended up getting paired up in the rolls with this monster of a purple belt. And I thought, all right, I don't want to get submitted, but I'm going to try and get this guy. And I did. I won, I suppose, in that I choked him out. But the next day, my left wrist started hurting, and it just got worse and worse. And I thought I broke it, and I got an X-ray, and I didn't. But I've been trying to rehab it for 3 months, and I won, I suppose, in the sense that I sort of defeated this big old higher belt. But now I haven't been able to train for 3 months, and I'm trying to rehab this stupid thing, and it's a little bit of a pride before the fall, I guess. So that's my dumb injury, and I very much appreciate all you're doing. I just got the program loaded up on the app, so hopefully I'll be connecting with you again soon. Thanks a lot. Keep up the good work.
Justin.
Awesome.
Legend.
Yeah.
Man, New Orleans, I've always wanted to go there.
Man, they say it is like a different part of the world.
Yeah,
like
right.
It's just totally, it's so unique.
To the rest of America.
Yeah. New York is its own place, and New Orleans is such a different place. But there is a cost, right?
I love that. Yes. First thing, the win-lose thing, right? In training, try not to look at it like that, right? You got him on that. You got that big belt on that day.
Yeah.
But you paid a price.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I've done it before. Actually, I hurt my thumb. I was doing like a bow and arrow choke, but my grip was shitty. I was like, I've got this choke, and if I let go and try and re-grip, I'm going to lose it. So I was like, I'm just going to crank this choke on, and it's like maximum thumb strain. And I did get the tap on the guy, but then afterwards I was like, I can't use my hand. Because in the heat of the moment, you're like, I have to tap this guy. And I understand that, the competitive person in me. When I say the competitive person in me, I just mean myself. I relate. Win. Go for it. But
construction company, man, I can just picture the size of your forearms, Justin.
Just crushing dudes.
Cargo shorts at the mall, huge calves, big forearms. Once you grab a hold of someone, that grip is not getting broken. Yeah.
and
epic.
So here's the hardest thing with wrist, because I've had some wrist irritation before. You've got so many bones around that area, and a lot of what can cause your wrist to tighten up is like connective tissues. Tight forearms can lead to compression in the wrists, and sore wrists suck, especially if you have a labor intensive job. You're using your hands and your wrists all the time, so you really feel it, right? And jiu-jitsu, for most people, they don't get, even though it's an up close and personal thing, jiu-jitsu, people don't get massage. People are like, oh, nah, can't have someone put their hands on me. But getting treatment on whether it be finger injuries.
People actually say that?
Oh, well, no, people have intimacy issues. Like, I don't want to. It's weird, right? Because we do jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of funny, but I've had people, that's a bit. As long as it's a woman.
Like, relax, bro. I'm just jerking you off.
It's just like, if you don't relax, you're not going to be able to come. It's simple. Come on, it'd be a lot easier for everyone if you just relaxed. No, seriously, though.
Don't relax too much now.
Here's the thing. It's really important that you are actually getting some treatment on it. Like just saying, all right, I'm just going to do some exercises may not be enough, because doing a certain amount of exercise and stretching is good, but you're trying to get some blood flow in there to help heal the tissues, whatever you've done. We don't know the nature of your injury. So that would be my advice. Get treatment on the forearms, massage on the forearms, on the hand, and around the joint. I think that will speed your recovery.
Yeah, and Justin, I say that because Louisiana.
Sure.
Dastin. That's how Khabib said it, huh?
Oh, I
Dastin. But yeah, he did say he was rehabbing it. So, but he didn't specify, right, what was going on. So I would say, yeah, if you were just doing your own stuff, go get some of that. I also find too that for those kinds of injuries that are, it sounds like it's kind of, I don't know, one of those kind of cumulative things that becomes a problem and it's a bit hard to identify, but it's nagging. I do find that regular treatment from someone who can either put hands on it, solid massage, or like needling goes a long way, always.
Definitely. And look, man, we're so stoked to have you doing our program. That's awesome. But what I would say is, even though you will be able to work around it, don't ignore it, because that can just become a real long-term problem, which we wouldn't want for you to have.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. And particularly if you are in construction, you probably, maybe not now so much because you are you're running the company, but I'm guessing in the early days you were on the tools a lot. And what we see from people that swinging hammers and working hand tools a lot is that they get really strong, but they also get very tight in the wrists because you think you're like constantly using this structure to apply force to the tool, whatever it is that you're doing. And usually it's like this kind of range is okay, like where you're flexing in, but the extension of your wrist and fingers sucks. And so like if I'm looking at low-hanging fruit in terms of like rebuilding and kind of addressing some of that dysfunction, it's just like gentle stretching and like a lot of it.
Yes.
And particularly post-jits after you've been gripping a lot.
And a little caveat on that, and actually the person who pushed this a lot, which is just totally random, Juji Mufu, did a whole ebook on hanging. Now, I don't know how you turn that into an ebook because obviously it's just very simple, but he was just saying for wrists, elbows, shoulders, and I mean, we promote it as well. But if you can, even though it requires grip, you hanging will actually act to decompress the joint, which is helpful because we don't spend much time doing that.
There it is.
My guy.
Guys, if you want to leave us a voicemail, go to the website, bulletproofforbjj.com, podcast tab, scroll down a little bit. You'll see the button there. Hit it, big red one. Leave us a message, and we'll feature you on next week's episode.
Much love.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.